All right, what is going on, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Very Cold Lasagna, the podcast that houses a safe and open listening platform for casual, cold, and even the dumbest takes on the world of WWE, AEW, the NFL, and the wide world of pro wrestling and sports in general. I'm your host, DylanLasagna. Welcome to today's episode number 47 of this freezing cold podcast. And man, we got another good one for you all today because we're going to be talking about the San Francisco 49ers and their Week 2 matchup against the Philadelphia Eagles on the road in the city of brotherly love, pal. Yeah, it was another one of those showdowns, John, in Philadelphia, and it was kind of a grit and grind showdown in Philadelphia. In contrast to the one we saw in Detroit in Week 1, I will say it already that this matchup in Week 2 was much better in terms of how we finished the game, how everyone played in that game overall. Much better. Now, there were obviously some things that the Niners still have to clean up, but we will get into that throughout this episode. But anyway, we're going to be talking about Week 2, some winners and losers of that game, some takeaways from that game, and we're going to be looking ahead to Week 3. The 49ers finally have their home opener against the Green Bay Packers in the brightest lights of Sunday Night Football on NBC. And man, I can't wait for that, man, on Sunday. But first things first, before we get into all the topics that we're going to be talking about in this episode of Very Cold Lasagna, we got to plug all of our shit first. You know, we got to shill ourselves in the vastness of the cold-ass fridge. But anyway, I digress. We got to plug the social media. So if you like what you see here on Very Cold Lasagna, you like what or hear, watch, however, make sure you subscribe to the Very Cold Lasagna YouTube channel and turn on that notification bell. Listen to the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Anchor FM, as well as Google Podcasts. And follow the show on social media on Twitter and Instagram at Very Cold Lasagna. So let's get into today's episode about the San Francisco 49ers, our weekly recap of the 49ers and their games for this 2021 NFL season. Week 2 for the 49ers. We've already talked about the rest of the league. Now it's for the Niners' turn. They were heading into this Week 2 matchup against the Philadelphia Eagles, who, mind you, the Eagles were coming off a big Week 1 victory against the Atlanta Falcons. Now, granted, the Falcons are not going to be a very good team this season. You know, in fairness, they still have a quality quarterback in Matt Ryan, but outside of him, there is not going to be much help around him, and especially the defense still seems kind of sus, but yeah, it was still nonetheless a big performance by that Eagles team that pretty much blew out the Falcons in Week 1. As for the 49ers, well, they seemed on the verge of a blowout victory over the Detroit Lions, scoring 38 points over that Lions team that claims to be capping them knees, pal. But sadly, the Lions all of a sudden roared back for, 30, or no, not 30 points, but I think it was like 14 unanswered points in the fourth quarter. Yeah, think about that. And I think that's the total point count, right? But you get my drift. They stormed back in that game, but unfortunately, I don't know how you want to spin this. The Niners held on to survive and win that game. In a game that they honestly should have ran away with. So that's why it was such a disappointing victory for me, and probably for a lot of people too. So they were heading into this game against Philadelphia, looking for some positive momentum when they didn't get it in Week 1. Not only did they win that game in a positive manner, I guess you consider that game a loss for them, because even though they won, they pretty much lost that game because they nearly choked that game, They also had some key players go down to injuries. They lost Raheem Mostert to the season with a knee injury. They also lost Dre Greenlaw to an injury for about 8 weeks. So they were coming in a little limping. So their depth was going to be tested. So we get into this game against the Eagles, and it is very sunny as hell. The crowd is lively as hell, and that's what I never mentioned about these first couple of recap episodes of Very Cold Lasagna. The crowd, man, it is so nice to have fans back in the stadium with these games. They make the game so much more enjoyable to watch. Just like with WWE and AEW events, admittedly, like the crowd makes things so much more bearable to watch, whether it's a wrestling event or a football game. But anyway, so we get into this game against the Philadelphia Eagles. It's not a very good start for this 49ers team. They go 3-and-out. Jimmy Garoppolo is making some very, very rash throws, rash decisions. And while he never took a sack in this game, and I'll give the credit to the offensive line, they did very well in protecting Jimmy G. It was just like, man, he was really rushing his throws in the first 3 possessions. Like, calm down, dude. Like, really, calm down. So the Niners go out 3-and-out, and the Eagles, they pushed the ball like a good chunk of on their first couple of possessions, but fortunately, the defense was still able to keep the Eagles either in punting, like they limited to punt the ball, or they only limited him to just 3 points. So that was a good thing. That was a good thing. But unfortunately, the Eagles seemed to look like they had a 10-0 lead before the end of the first quarter. So like this game could have easily gotten out of hand because like the 49ers were in a funk. But fortunately, like there was a touchdown pass from Jalen Hurts to Jalen Reagor. But it was ruled that Reagor was an ineligible player downfield. So they called that touchdown back, and they were trying to make a field goal. But Javon Kinlaw made a really big play, which I think started to turn the tide for this Niners team. And that was some really good stuff there. So we go to the second quarter, and that Kinlaw field goal block, I guess it started to pick up some steam on the offense, started to motivate them. They didn't seem fazed by the crowd anymore, and the Niners offense seemed like, okay, we can start moving this ball, and that's what they did. They started to pick up some momentum. But unfortunately, there were a few costly mistakes that derailed it. You had a chop block penalty by Mohamed Sanu, and Kyle Shanahan on third down when they just needed a couple of yards, not like 3rd and 10, 3rd and 15, or whatnot. They just needed like I think it was like 3rd and medium, 3rd and 5 or something. He calls a screen pass. He calls a jet sweep. Where the receiver runs behind the quarterback before the snap, and Jimmy Garoppolo passes it to, let's say, Deebo Samuel, because that's who he passed it to, and the Eagles stopped him right away. Like, Kyle Shanahan, what are you doing? It's third down. Your offense has started to carry momentum. Let Jimmy Garoppolo throw the damn ball. Sure, he's not the most accurate passer you have, but you gotta trust this dude. You have to give him a little bit of trust. How is he gonna be more accurate if you don't trust the guy? Sure, he has his issues, but you gotta give him a little bit of trust here. So anyway, he continually insists on running it on third down when they can get into field goal range, get some points, but no, they go for the jet sweep, and they have to punt again. So, speaking of which, punting, Mitch Wisnowski, he was a baller in this game. He pinned every time the Niners had to punt, he pinned the Eagles deep. So he is a really good guy in this game. But the first go around, even though he pinned them deep, the Eagles still managed to get really deep into the red zone with a 91-yard bomb to Quez Watkins, whoever he is. Jalen Hurts threw this big strike to Quez Watkins. The what's his name? It was by the name of Lenore. I think it was Diomandore Lenore. He got a little bit burnt in coverage, but he managed to get back on it. So he managed to prevent a touchdown from happening. So they once again prevented another 10-0 lead from happening. And good thing that they were at first and goal. They were very close to the end zone, and the 49ers had a very good goal line stand. So the Eagles decided to go for it on fourth down. They tried to go for the Philly special again, and sorry, you're not Nick Foles. It failed. It blatantly failed. So this was kind of starting to become a theme for the Eagles throughout this game, because they were trying to take all these big risks, but it wasn't going to pay off. It wasn't going to pay off. So they turned the ball over on downs. The 49ers started to get into rhythm finally, and they would eat up the rest of the half, marching down the field in this 4-minute drive. Jawan Jennings, the rookie receiver, gets a touchdown. The 49ers lead the half 7-3. Yeah, this is a kind of like a grit and grind battle at this point, because even though the Eagles were really pushing the ball downfield, like I said, they weren't capitalizing on those opportunities. They had the goal line in their sights, but they were taking too many risks that weren't really paying off, because our defense really stepped up. But it's high risk, and you just gotta chance it at some times. So it could have been 10 or 20-3 at the half, but damn, that defense really stepped up when it mattered most, and they just had to hope that the Eagles fail on these mistakes, and that's what they did. This could have been a runaway game for the Eagles, but luckily it didn't. So we get to the third quarter. The Eagles get the ball to start the second half, and this second half really started to turn the corner for the 49ers defensively and offensively. Nick Bosa, on the second play of this second half, he sacked Jalen Hurts. He strip sacked him, and they forced the Eagles to punt. 2 plays later, it's you could tell that this Niners defensive line is heating up. It is heating up. They're all right, we've been pushed around long enough by this Eagles offensive line. It's we let you have your fun in protecting Jalen Hurts. Now it's our turn. It is our turn to get at the quarterback. So the Eagles punt, but the 49ers, they weren't prone to their own miscues on the first possession of the second half. George Kittle would nearly turn over the football, and then Jimmy G would nearly throw an interception on an underthrown ball to Deebo Samuel. So it is what it was. But both teams punted throughout much of this second half. But this is where the Niners really and methodically ate this game up. They burned the clock. And honestly, all the Eagles could do was, sit there and watch, and their defense start to get tired by this point. So they ate up the clock for almost 8 minutes going into the fourth quarter. And this drive would end on a Jimmy G QB sneak. That was pretty much the theme of the day. The Eagles could not stop the quarterback sneak, and thank goodness they didn't. So the Niners extend their lead 14-3. And like I said before, the defense began to heat up for the 49ers, despite, they giving up another touchdown much later in the game. So Lenore and Jimmy Ward broke up a ton of passes, and they pretty much made the passing game mostly non-existent, aside from, once again, that touchdown much later in that game. Nick Bosa again sacked Jalen Hurts on the Eagles' first possession of the fourth quarter to force another punt. And at this point in the game, the Eagles are down 14 17-3, and the desperation is starting to kick in. They're the midway point of the fourth quarter, and they're starting to make some really bad decisions for the Eagles. And while it looked good for the 49ers, you have to keep in mind the Eagles were trying to battle back in this game. I'm trying to be a little fair here for the Eagles. Even though this is my team's the 49ers, but we got to talk about them Eagles here. So the Eagles seem to have recovered a fumble on a botched pitch between Jimmy G and JaMycal Hasty, but this was where the first mistake happened. Derek Barnett, the defensive end for the Eagles, committed a personal foul on JaMycal Hasty, which was very, very stupid. Why did you have to do that? And then another fumble occurred 2 plays later. Trey Sermon, who had his first NFL carry, he fumbled the football too, and that was recovered by the Eagles. But they were also called for another personal foul for an illegal hit on Trey Sermon, and that took them out of the game. So pretty much, yeah, our running backs were getting pretty injured in this game because of dirty hits by the Eagles. So a couple plays later, they get into field goal range. Robbie Gould hits a field goal to extend the lead 17-3. But like I said countless times, the Eagles marched down the field in just a minute to cut the lead down to 17-11 on a Jalen Hurts sneak and a Kenneth Gainwell 2-point conversion. So problem was for the Eagles, they already burnt their 3 timeouts by the time this happened, and they couldn't shut down the Niners offense because once again they fell victim to another quarterback sneak by Jimmy G, and that was all she wrote for this game. So the Niners hold on to win this grit and grind battle 17-11. And yeah, this was pretty much a game of, kind of like test your might, test your will for both of these teams. Jimmy Garoppolo didn't have the best game at all, but he took care of the football, and yeah, he made some pretty boneheaded throws, but he was pretty much the game sealer. He's pretty much the game sealer with the quarterback sneak. He proved once again that I can close the thing with the nasty quarterback sneak. The defense once again proved that they're the strength of this team. The secondary seems to be picking up in this game. Lenore seems to be stepping up for the injured Jason Verrett, so that's good. Josh Norman made some costly pass interference penalties, but it didn't matter in the end because the Eagles seemed to be pushing in the red zone, but they couldn't capitalize on those mistakes. So Norman seemed to have everything locked down in his part of the field. So the defense stepped up. Now, another reason why this was such a green guy game because the Eagles made some mistakes. So even though they were also doing well on the defensive end, the offense was just making a lot of mistakes. Nick Sirianni was also making these questionable decisions to we should go for it on 4th down, but then also we should try the Philly special, even though the defense pretty much knew it was going to happen. So yeah, these are some things that the Eagles can learn from this. They're still a relatively rebuilding team, still a relatively new team on the block. Not in terms of they just came into the NFL Seattle Kraken in the NHL, but they still have a new head coach, 2nd-year quarterback, a bunch of new players, so they gotta learn. They can learn from this. They gotta learn from this too. So we'll see how it goes from there for the Eagles. But like I said, grit and grind game, a battle of wills. It was just in the end, the Niners outwilled and out-strategized the Eagles to win this game. Now, for some winners and losers of this game, Nick Bosa and Javon Kinlaw. I think Nick Bosa, he was pretty much like, locked down in the first half. But once the second half began, it was pretty much like Nick Bosa making the key plays of the game, sacking Jalen Hurts and forcing the Eagles to punt, and then another sack that in the fourth quarter to also force the Eagles to punt. And he was pretty much like creating pressure to eventually implode that Eagles offensive line. It's like they weren't going to shut him down like all game long. He was ready to explode. And that's what he did, getting 2 sacks on Jalen Hurts. So that was good stuff there. And then Javon Kinlaw, he made a critical field goal block that pretty much shifted the momentum of this game for the 49ers. Deebo Samuel, even though like Jimmy G is pretty much throwing yak throws, the yards after catch, Deebo Samuel is pretty much doing all he can to evade the defenders and running his routes efficiently. He is starting his breakout year. He's really starting his breakout year for the 49ers and the NFL. And then Jimmy Garoppolo, like I said before, he didn't make the most smartest, that's even a sentence. He didn't make the smartest decisions at times, but he was critical in helping the 49ers win today. And yeah, they were like, he could have done better to get the 49ers started in their first 3 possessions. Like he shouldn't have made those very rash throws and whatnot. And he kind of throws the ball really high too, still. But in the end, I gotta give Jimmy G a little bit of credit here. He has done some things to give the Niners like a will to win over these first 2 games. Well, at least this one in particular, because the Lion game, yeah, that was on the defense, but this game, like, he willed this team to victory along with the defense. Now as for the losers of this game, once again, it's Kyle Shanahan. Like, there'll be a time where I can label Shanahan as a winner this season, but just like last week, this week's not one of them. That's because there's just some decisions that I really question Kyle Shanahan on, especially that jet sweep on 3rd and 1 in the second quarter where they were really starting to pick up on offense, and then he calls a jet sweep. Like, what are you trying to call? What are you trying to prove here? That it can work on 3rd down, the jet sweep, they're on the outside going in, and then there's a high probability that it gets stopped because they know it's coming. Like, what kind of dumb dick can you be? Like, either go what was working, the quarterback sneak, because it's been working all game long to that point, or run on the inside, or even try to dink and dunk it, check it down to the sideline. It's a fail-proof play. It's like a fail-safe play or whatnot. Like, go with what works. Go with what's working. The jet sweep was not working at that point. So he was making a lot of weird decisions in that game. And another loser in this game, and I really don't want to put him in this position, George Kittle, the tight end. Although he's one of my favorite players, I just have to say something about Kittle because I don't know if it's like Shanahan doing this or it's Kittle, but he just has not been stepping up in the passing game. He's really good as a blocker, but why limit him as a blocker these first 2 games? It's like we've seen how he can do. We've seen what he can do as a passing tight end, as a catching tight end. I don't know what's going on. What was the game plan here? But either way, he needs to do what people made him fawn over him so much. He needs to have that balance of being both a good blocker and a good playmaking tight end. And I don't know. Again, I don't know if it's him or Shanahan that's limiting that potential, but he needs to go back to being both. So some takeaways from this game: the secondary was hit and miss. So they were very neutral in this game. So like I said, they gave up some big plays, But then they also made some big plays when it mattered most, like the big 91-yard throw in the second quarter, and then a couple plays later, they had that goal line stand, and that included stopping the Philly special in the end zone. So they really stepped up in that game on last Sunday in week 2. And not only that, they're also able to keep quiet Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert, and Zach Ertz all day. They limited them pretty relatively. Sure, they gave up a big pass to Jalen Reagor, and they had to get Miles Sanders more involved. But if you were able to keep 3 of the big receivers in Smith, Goddard, and Ertz, like quiet, shut down, as I mentioned in the key to the game last week, then that was a big win. That was a big win right there. And then, like I said before, the rest of the defense making big timely plays. They were a key in winning this game. Javon Kinlaw blocking that field goal. Fred Warner, he tackled Sanders or whoever the running back was at the time in that goal line stand. He made some timely tackles in that game. Nick Bosa's 2 sacks. And the defense, even though, they gave us some plays after the first few series, they locked in for the rest of the game when it mattered most. As for the Eagles, this was another takeaway from this game. Like I said, the mistakes. The mistakes were eventually going to cost the Eagles this game. So they had plenty of opportunities to run away with this game. But sadly, unfortunately, it just slipped away from them. They had that opening possession where they were literally attacking the Niners secondary, but like the Niners defense clamped down and forced in the punt. And I talked about in length the goal line stand, so I'm probably not going to mention it again. And that pretty much led to the Eagles offense pretty much not performing as well as they did in the first half in comparison to the second half. So I'm just saying the 49ers did their part on offense and defense, but the Eagles had opportunities to win this game. They just couldn't take full advantage of them. And as a result, it led to some mistakes, some miscues, some things they got to learn down the line. They got to learn it soon because they got to face the Cowboys on Monday night. And last but not least, the Niners properly closed out this game in week 2. So, although the Eagles would get back into this game late, they did. The Niners did what they should have done with the Lions last week, week 1, close out this game properly. Like I said, with some keys to the game, if the Niners were in a close game that they needed to close out, they needed to get the first down to ice it, and that's exactly what they did. They could have done it in the previous possession with the field goal, but it was what it was. And that being said, all in all, this was a much better win for the 49ers because this was a win that really tested their will. This is a win that tested their depth, tested their strength, than the one that the Lions provided. So this should give them some more confidence. They lost some running backs in this game, but this should at least help them be a little bit more confident that even though we've had the injuries, we can still be much more tested going into the home opener against the Green Bay Packers in week 3. Speaking of which, let's talk about week 3. Looking ahead to the Green Bay Packers on Sunday Night Football in the brightest lights on what should be a warm or cold night, depending on how you look at it, on NBC. The Green Bay Packers, I think I talked about them in the NFL Week 2 recap episode of this podcast. The Packers defeated the Lions 35-17. The Lions actually were up 17-14 at the half. The Packers allowed 17 points to a Lions team led by Jared Goff. They were allowing Jared Goff to be precise and accurate with a lot of his throws, but the Packers rebounded from their loss to the Saints a week ago with a shutout performance in the second half, and they outscored the Lions 21-0. Aaron Rodgers rebounded from a terrible week 1 with a 4-touchdown performance, and he pretty much dissected the Lions defense. Aaron Jones and Devontae Adams also had big bounce-back games too, and like I said, the defense forced Jared Goff into making some very, very bad decisions. So, all in all, the Packers seem like they're going to be back on track heading into this Sunday night game against the 49ers. So, to end this episode, we're going to talk about some keys to victory for this 49ers team going into their home opener against the Packers. Some keys to victory for this game. You got to attack the secondary with the passing game. The Packers shut out Detroit in the second half, and they forced Jared Goff into mistakes. But, like I said, they still gave up some big plays to a Lions team that doesn't have too much firepower on offense outside of TJ Hawkinson. That will and should be something that the Niners exploit on Sunday night with their own bevy of weapons in Deebo Samuel, Mohamed Sanu, and George Kittle. Involve him more in the passing game, please. But, like I said time and time again, it'll be on Jimmy G to get them going and up and running like he did in their 2019 game on Sunday night. They got to start fast and strong with Jimmy Garoppolo as well as the running game. Now, considering that our running back depth is, already not the same as it was before the season started, and 2 weeks in, you got to start strong. You got to finish drives faster, and at least advance the ball downfield. This 49ers offense has to start possessions better. You can't go 3 and out. You can't you can't pin yourselves way back in your own end zone for 3 straight possessions like you did against the Eagles. You gotta finish these games. You gotta finish and start these games, especially start these games better. You gotta move the ball downfield. Stop going 3 and out so early in the game. Get some outside sweeps with the running backs. Bounce inside runs. And let Jimmy G take some bigger risks in the passing game. Get something going very early, to scare the Packers at least. They're going to be playing against much better competition in the next several weeks. And if they can't start their possessions better and faster, they're going to be falling behind even quicker. And last but not least, generate the pass rush onto the Packers' less than full strength offensive line. These 2 games against the Lions and Eagles have done good things for the 49ers, especially on their pass rush, because it's gotten Nick Bosa back up to speed, D Ford also back up to speed, even though he had a relatively quiet game against the Eagles. But still, the Niners' defensive line are playing very well, and they're making key plays. But they'll be facing a Packers offensive line that still doesn't have their best top tackle in David Bakhtiari. So whether it's D Ford, Nick Bosa, or Javon Kinlaw, they got to generate some pressure to force Aaron Rodgers into making some bad decisions and hopefully some sacks too. Take him to Sack City. So those are just my takeaways, some of my keys to victory for this coming Sunday night game against the Green Bay Packers. But overall, to put a bow on this 49ers episode of Very Cold Lasagna, it was a good and grindy Week 2 win on the road in Philadelphia. Much better than the one that the Niners had in Week 1 to start the season in Detroit. And the 49ers, as a reward, finally opened Levi's Stadium to a packed crowd for what should be an exciting Sunday nighter against the Green Bay Packers. these two teams, the Niners and the Packers, faced each other more times than you can imagine in the last 3 years. But like always, anything can happen when these two teams face off against each other. But in the last couple of years, even though last year happened, the Niners have been making Rodgers their bitch. In the last 2 years. But anyway, I digress. But anyway, that is it for this episode of Very Cold Lasagna. What do you guys think about the Niners' Week 2 victory over the Philadelphia Eagles? And what do you guys think will happen when the 49ers face the Green Bay Packers in their new throwback unis? I forgot to mention that. It's a new 75th anniversary uniform night. Yeah, I forgot about that. It's crazy. But it's their 94 throwback jerseys. I forgot. How could I forget to mention that? But anyway, let me know about that too. How do you feel about their 94 red throwbacks? Let me know how you feel about that too. But also let me know how you feel about the Niners game on Sunday night against the Packers. However you can. But that is it for this episode of Very Cold Lasagna. I am your host, DylanLasagna. Make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Listen to the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Anchor FM, and Google Podcasts. Follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at Very Cold Lasagna. Keep that lasagna very cold in the fridge with your takes on the world of pro wrestling and sports freezing cold in the fridge. And until next time, I will see you next week for some more NFL recaps and 49ers recaps. And hopefully week 3 will be good too. So until next time, peace out.